Hello everyone, Calamity here. Welcome to another video on the Spiral Abyss. Today we're taking a look at the most popular characters that are currently being used. And this is from the Akasha Database, which does include a large portion of the player base, but don't use it as an accurate one-to-one representation. That being said, let's take a look at the most popular characters being used. And I don't think there's a surprise to see that Bennett is still one of the #1 most used characters in the Spiral Abyss. Next up, we have Zhongli in second place. Now, obviously, this is because of two things. The Golden Wolf Lord boss in the second chamber, second half, as well as the Geo Wolves in the third chamber, second half. Next up, we have Nahida, also another great character, just overall with the many Dendro teams that exist. I can't really look. I don't know if I can actually check which half she's being used on more, but if I like click on the characters, nothing happens. So I'm gonna assume she's being used in any half. It does not matter. You're just gonna have a good time either way. She could be great for bosses. She'd be great for the second half when dealing with a large swarm of enemies as well. Next up, we have Raiden Shogun, who I also personally used in the Spiral Abyss. I think her numbers are much higher than usual because of her recent rerun. More people got to pull for her, and more people probably got her built. So the huge number here is no surprise, but even without the current rerun banner, I still think the number is pretty high. Kokomi being the, what is this, fifth? Yeah, fifth most used character in the Spiral Abyss. Especially if on those, again, I'd like to mention that last chamber because I had a lot of trouble with it. The Geo Wolves on chamber 3 second half, those things are mean. Those things do a lot of damage. And Kokomi is an excellent healer, used in a lot of teams, and I'm sure she's keeping you alive against the annoying corrosion effect from these wolves. Kazuha seems to have dropped a bit in terms of usage. He's down at 58.5%. Still used a lot though, but usually Kazuha, in terms of percentage or like, usage, he's usually up there, right next to Bennett. Looks like he's used a little less, but that is still a really good overall percentage. Yelan also up here, still pretty solid usage rate right next to Jing Cho. They have about the same. In fact, both of these characters are pretty much used in the same team comps. Zhongli at 49.5%. Also not a surprise there. Very, very common used sub DPS with a lot of teams. Now, the next couple rows are where things get a little bit more interesting since we get to see a little bit, fluctuations in character usage. At least I like to think so. Wanderer, still solid at 37.3%, by the way. Before we move on to that next row, he's in the top right corner. Still going strong. I'm sure that number is about as stable as it can be, though. It's been plenty of time since its release, and I do believe that now that people know that he's a very strong, very solid unit, the people that didn't build him initially, those people that were like, oh, I'm just building Pity, or oh, I pulled Wanderer, but I don't really care. But now that, maybe they heard that, oh, he's really, really good, maybe they finally took the time to build him up and are using him in the Spiral Abyss. That could be the instance here, but I don't see his usage rate going any higher anytime soon until he gets another rerun. Next up, we have Shinobu and Nilo. You wouldn't use these two characters together, but Shinobu's up here because she's one of the more popular Electro units for Hyperbloom teams, and with the new Flower of Paradise Lost, I believe that's the name of the artifact set. Her Hyperbloom damage just got a whole lot better if you decided to rebuild her or redo her whole artifact set. Nilo, in my opinion, was probably one of the strongest teams before Wanderer came around, and she's still just because the new unit comes in and is the new popular thing doesn't mean Nilo falls off. She's still going to be a very solid unit, very strong unit. He's in her Bloom team, and I'm sure with the addition of Yao Yao, more people are opting in to maybe use her because maybe they use their Kokomi or they use a different healer on their other team. Maybe they didn't have enough healers to use Nilo safely, but I I think with the addition of Yaya, this actually helped her usage rate stay higher. Or I think it would still be high either way, but Yaya definitely making her still be a viable pick. Yaya Miko at 30.6%. I'm honestly kind of surprised that she's so high. I'm guessing also used in Hyper Bloom stuff, or just, you know, maybe even with just Raiden Shogun in general, but I'm surprised. I'm really surprised. Next up, we have Ayato. Ayato has definitely made a name for himself, especially with the most recent rerun banner he had along Raiden, so this number definitely has increased due to that, but also because figuring out of his new Hyper Bloom. Is it Hyper Bloom or just Bloom? I think it's Hyper Bloom with Ayato, making that team actually really, really strong, and then I'm seeing a lot of usage of it in the Spiral Abyss overall. Same with Sinnoh, also just Hyper Bloom, but Sinnoh's been a solid character ever since his release. That number has definitely gone down because, you know, other people are trying other DPS characters like Nilo and Wanderer. Farazan with 26.4%. I honestly thought she should swap with Yaya Miko in terms of usage. I thought she'd be a little bit used more because of the whole Wanderer Farazan synergy thing, and if you know, and I guess the people that are also using Zhao would also use her as well. So I thought Farazan would have a slightly higher one, but she is definitely a solid support unit if you're going to use Wanderer or Zhao for your main DPS. Hu Tao at 25.8%. Now this number is definitely going to increase on the next iteration of the Spiral Abyss, because we all know her rerun banners coming in, and Yelan too. So Yelan and Hu Tao are definitely going to have a usage increase as more players get to hopefully win their 50-50s or just get some lucky pulls in general. Arataki Ito seeing some usage here at 25.6%. Probably again due to the fact of the Geo Wolves on the Chamber 3 second half. Next up, we have Klee at 21.5%. This is surprisingly high. What the heck? What's going on with Klee? I'm not familiar. Is there a new team comp that everyone's talking about with Klee? Very, very surprised to see such a high usage here. She's even used more than Child right now. That's actually more than Child, Ayaka, and Alhaitham, our new guy. That is quite something, actually. I gotta check out what's going on with Klee. And then after that, as I already mentioned, we have Tartaglia at a solid 20%, which makes sense. He's a very, you know, again, I've said this before, but he's just been a solid unit ever since his release. You know, and you use him with the international team, you get solid results. Ayaka at 18.7% is quite a surprise to me as well. I thought her number, her and Ganyu, I thought would be a little bit higher, but I guess that's not the case. But she is being used more than Ganyu. I wonder if the outfit has anything to do with this. If, you know, if the release of her new outfit made people want to play her just more often, or, you know, make her work in the Spiral Abyss. Very curious to see. I forgot what her usage rate was a couple weeks ago before the update came out. And then here we are at the newest 5-star character to join us, which is Alhaitham at 18.1%. I do expect this number to rise only a bit slightly in the next Spiral Abyss, as more people are probably farming for his stuff. Next up, we have Albedo at a perfect 17% usage rate. Again, probably because of the Geo on the Wolves. Again, the Chamber. I mentioned that Chamber a lot, but it's true. It's gonna. I brought out my whole Geo team just to fight that Chamber. And then we have Ganyu at 16.3%. This low usage rate surprises the heck out of me because I used Ganyu a lot in my Spiral Abyss runs, especially on the first couple iterations of this Abyss cycle. I used Ganyu for the Golden Wolf Lord. I used the Melt Ganyu team, and I had some pretty good results with it, and I'm surprised you know, it wasn't used more often. I'm just guessing because people are doing more Hyper Bloom stuff these days, but seeing Ganyu with the low pick rate is such a shocker to me. Next up, we have Shenhe, 15.3%. Makes sense because she's only used with the characters that you see here, like Ganyu and Ayaka, and maybe a few others, but yeah, it makes sense to see her around the same usage rate as them. And then we have Yoimiya, 15.3% as well, tied with Shenhe. Surprising me, again, I thought her pick rate would also be higher because there's so many bosses. I used Yoimiya on the first half of the chamber because of the mechanical array, and then we had the well, the Jade Plume Terror Shroom. I can definitely see why a lot more people opted in for Electro because it stuns it rather than makes it, you know, summon ads and get angry. But I still use Yoimiya because, you know, I'm the closest thing to a Yoimiya main. Yao Yao, our brand new healer at 5.8% usage rate. This is already great to see. I definitely think Yao Yao's usage rate is actually going to go much higher. She's still new. A lot of people are still probably building her, getting her. But I definitely think she's going to have way more than 5.8% usage. Diona and Barbara tied for 5.7% usage, which is a bit surprising. 4.6 on Venti makes sense. I mean, there's, again, lots of bosses on this floor, on the Spiral Abyss in general, so not much usage out of your Venti. Kali, 3.1%. Even worse than Traveler. She's definitely been forgotten about as more and more Dendro have come out. Toma being at 0.9 also makes me sad because of his... I saw how well his Burgeon team was doing, and I thought that would mean we'd see a lot more usage of Toma. I don't know, maybe it's a mixture of people not knowing that his Burgeon team is really strong. Maybe it's because of all the bosses again. But I do think if the next Spiral Abyss does go back to focusing on groups of enemies, then Toma's Burgeon team comp might see a resurgence in pick rate. And then lastly, 0.2% go to Razor, Jinyan, Alloy, and Candice. Now, if you are using any of these characters with 36-star clearing success, you are Omega Chad. I don't know what you're doing, how you're doing it, but you're incredible and keep it up. That is going to wrap it up for the most popular characters used in the Spiral Abyss as of right now. Obviously, these numbers are going to change quite a bit once the new Spiral Abyss comes in, assuming it's going to, you know, bring in a lot of the new enemies, possibly the new bosses we've already seen in the new area. So that'll be interesting to see. Is there any character that you are surprised in terms of, you know, popularity pick rate to see up here? Is there any disappointments? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you like the content, and I'll see you in the next one.